Hey everybody, this is Adam here at David French Music. We're doing an instrument maintenance series, how to keep your instrument in tip-top shape in between services and professional cleanings here at the repair shop. In this video we'll be talking about this alto saxophone, but really a lot of this applies to tenor, bari, even soprano, depending on which one you play and what your skill level is. So before we talk about the actual instrument, the first big thing I like to talk about are the reeds. What's really good for reeds is keeping them on rotation. Reeds are super fragile. They're made of a natural material which is very porous and susceptible to weather, temperature, and different changes. And just to show you how gentle they are, I've got two new ones here. I'm just gonna lightly push it against the table. They break super easy and they're not inexpensive, so you want to make sure that you take care of them to get as much time as you can out of the reeds. Once you have a series of good reeds that are working for you, keeping them on rotation is important. Reeds that play really well today might not sound good tomorrow or the day after that, just depending on what's going on outside, what's going on with the material. A great way to store these reeds is in a reed case. There are literally dozens of options that you can choose from. The one I have here today is just a D'Addario reed case. I like this one because they hold up to 8 reeds, and on the inside it actually has a slot to put in a humidifier. They just call them reed vitalizers. What's nice about that is it regulates the humidity inside of the case, protects the reeds, and allows them to be at their best for you when you're going to try and choose which one to play on a specific day. Great investment here. Now we move into the actual instrument, things to be thinking about here to keep your saxophone working and playing well. The first thing I like to talk about is the neck cork, where that mouthpiece is actually going to be connecting to the instrument. When you fit a neck cork at a repair shop, they're going to be tapered with the actual size of the tubing underneath it, and they're going to fit so that your mouthpiece doesn't slip around and cause all kind of intonation issues. So it has to be fairly tight, which means if we don't put any sort of grease or any kind of lubricant on it, we run the risk of damaging or ripping the cork. So what I like to do is I just get myself some cork grease. This specific one here is Yamaha cork grease. I put just a conservative amount on there. I don't want anything overflowing or going all over my instrument, and I lightly rub that in there. And then once I put my mouthpiece on there, it goes on to where I need it to go based on its tuning needs, and it stays right where I need it without too much of a hassle. That's a great one. Moving on down the instrument, the next big thing to be worrying about here is the moisture that gets into the instruments. Moisture is the arch nemesis of any woodwind and brass instruments. What we want to be doing here is getting it out every time we play, every time we practice or perform. So with saxophones specifically, they make a nice one here. I have just a gem silk saxophone swab. Make sure you buy one that's specific for your instrument. If you play alto or tenor or soprano, they're going to be different sizes depending on your needs. For those of you that have never used a swab or need a refresher, swabs have a counterweight on the end of them. And what we want to be doing here is putting it through the bell or the largest part of the tubing. And then we're going to flip that around because what we're trying to do is get that counterweight to come all the way down. So I'm putting it string, and I'm working that all the way through till we see it on the other side here. Once I get that through, I can safely pull my swab through. Depending on how long you've played, how much moisture is in the instrument, you can do it a couple times through. If you've only played for 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe one time would suffice. They also make a smaller one that you could use for the neck. It's a great idea to be doing that to keep your instrument moisture free, keep everything from sticking as far as the pads, and keep those mechanisms moving to the best of their ability. On the idea of pads, another great thing you can be doing is investing in some cleaning paper. This one is just Yamaha cleaning paper, but you can get any equivalent brand. It's also good. It almost is the texture and feel of a dryer sheet, and because it's got that type of fabric and that type of feel, it does a really good job at pulling out some of the stuff that's built up on your pads. I know teachers and private teachers and band directors everywhere We encourage our students and ourselves to not eat or drink anything before we play, because we don't want that then going into the instrument and staying there. It's what causes things to stick really, really badly. So what I want to do here, put this in dry. You don't need to use any type of cleaning or solvent. Put it in between the pad and the tone hole. You won't damage anything. Right now I'm working on the B and the C key on the saxophone. Pushing down with as much pressure as I would play the instrument, and then pulling that through. I would do it a few times until you feel that key starting to get a little quieter. You can hear some of that sticky noise going away. Once you use it, toss it away. Treat it like a tissue. One-time use only. Go to the next one the next time you use it. Last but not least, the big thing we want to talk about here are pad savers. And you can see I wrote no, 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 no on them. The problem is this design is pretty counterintuitive. It's meant to go down the instrument, take out the moisture, then pull it back up, which seems logical, right? But we know ourselves and we know our students, and you might know yourself as a student. You're gonna put it in there and you see at the very bottom, oh, that looks like a little end plug. And you know what happens? It just stays in the instrument. So all you're really doing is you're just introducing the same amount of moisture to the pads, and you're keeping it inside of the pad saver, which is usually made of some soft fabric. So you're really just inviting all this mold and all this mildew to just have a party inside of your instrument instead of getting the moisture away. So if you ever see a pad saver or you think it's a good idea to invest in that, no, 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 no. Just don't get that. Invest in an end plug, which usually always comes with a student model instrument, a pro instrument, and get yourself a swab. You're going to be in much better shape. These tips and tricks will help keep your saxophone in better playing condition longer before you have to come see us. The last thing to invest in, if you feel so inclined, is a general screwdriver. 1/16 usually works well. It works for most of the woodwind instruments. What we want to do here is just be on the lookout for any rods or pivots that are backing out of the post. Posts are just those pillars that stick out of the body of the instrument that hold key rods and key pivot screws in place. So instruments are made to vibrate. So naturally, especially for lesser quality instruments, screws and rods will want to back out over time. So if you ever see one backing out and you see it popping out of the post assembly, you can feel confident that you can take a screwdriver and just screw that back in clockwise. With rods, you can go until it's nice and tight. With pivots, make sure you don't go too tight. You don't want the key to totally bind up on you, but you don't want the rod or pivot to fall out on you. Another good investment here. All these tips and tricks for saxophone are just ways to keep your instrument in better playing shape and better maintained in between services and trips to your repair shop.